We ready?
Yep. All right.
Okay. Town of Copper Canyon Board of Adjustment will meet on Tuesday, December 17th at 7 p.m. I call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Item 2, public input. The purpose of this item is to allow citizens an opportunity to address the Copper Canyon Board of Adjustment on issues that are not subject of a public hearing. We ask citizens who wish to speak to sign in on the sheet provided at the back of the table of the council chambers. There's a 3-minute time limit for each speaker pursuant to the open meetings law. The Board of Adjustment cannot discuss or take action on items not posted on the agenda. For items which require a public hearing, citizens or visitors will be allowed to speak at the time. At that time, the item is introduced on the agenda. Does anyone wish to speak during public? Did we have anyone sign up? Okay. So the session is now closed. Nobody signed up. We'll move to the consent item. Item number 3, approving the minutes of the September 30th, 2024 Board of Adjustment meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Paul Dietz initiates a motion. Second.
Second.
Gary Cummins seconds the vote. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those not in favor? Okay, unanimous vote. Okay, closing consent, moving on to public hearing. Public hearing is open at 7:01 p.m. The Board of Adjustment, Copper Canyon Board of Adjustment will conduct a public hearing for the purpose of the hearing. All comments regarding the request of Toll Southwest LLC, owner and real property located at 3113 Sherlock Lane, described as Vickery Phase 3, Block K, Lot 9, Town of Copper Canyon, Denton County, Texas, for a variance from the Town of Copper Canyon zoning ordinance number 19-006, Plan Development District number 1, Development Standard E, lot and setback standards for minimum 62 feet wide, single-family lots. Number 2, minimum front yard. The request is for a variance from the required garage setback. The ordinance requires a minimum of 20-foot setback from the property line. The property owner has requested a 17-foot garage setback. So at this time, I would like to recognize Troy Meyer as a town representative. Do you want to, I think, or no, you have a microphone.
No.
Okay, so something that if you've not been to one of these before, something that we do require state law is that people take what we call the truth oath. So if you're going to speak, you have to take the oath because it's considered part of the record. So Troy, I state your name.
I, Troy Meyer,
Swear or affirm to
swear or affirm to
tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Okay.
So thank you, Dave. So a part of that, our town secretary was unable to make it tonight. So tonight, the BOA, you guys are considering a variance request, and I would like to submit the agenda packet and also ask that we enter this into the record. And what we're going to enter into the record is the packet would include the following: the meeting minutes, the consent items, the applicant requesting the variance along with supporting documents, the ordinance that has the details as it relates to the setbacks requirements, and then also proof of the public notices in the packet as well. So all those things will be entered in for the record.
Anything further? Troy, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak during this section? Mike, you can stand up there and then we'll have you take the oath. The oath is actually printed at the top there. Yeah.
Good evening, Chair and Board. Mike Boswell.
Yeah, before you even start, you got to go
Okay,
for the oath
okay.
first.
I, Mike Boswell, swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Thank you.
Mike Boswell, Toll Brothers, 2555 Southwest Grapevine Parkway, Grapevine, Texas, 76051. Good evening, Chair and Board. It's unfortunate events that got us here tonight. This is, in my mind, a fairly interesting case. In my 27 years of doing this, this is the second time I've had to go before the Zoning Board of Adjustment for a case. With that said, in all honesty, I was on the City of Denton Zoning Board of Adjustment for many years, for 3 years, and served as chairman as one. I've got a small, quick presentation to just kind of go through pictorially we're looking at here, and then to kind of go through the hardship requests and kind of lay those out. Next slide. So this came up with one of our homeowners, and so, true to our core values, we want to do the right thing here and get ahead of it so that they never have to deal with this again. And again, our overall goal is to delight our customer here. Next slide, please. So generally speaking, Vickery is located south of 407. It is the one small piece of Copper Canyon south of 407. Next slide, please. This is the final plat, but if you'll recall, there's a PD that governs the setback document, the setbacks on this property. It is zoning ordinance 19005 and 19006. As we move forward and develop through the project, and again, we've completed all development in the subdivision, and we're in the process of actually closing the subdivision out. We ended up with phase 3 here. There was a subsequent phase 4 south of here. The request tonight is for a home that is located in phase 3 of Vickery. It is address of 3113 Sherlock Lane, Block K, Lot 9. You can see it there, point with the arrow pointing to it. This is a legally platted lot in the town of Copper Canyon. Next slide, please. So where this started was with a plot plan. The plot plan was basically drawn by a permit tech and by a CAD tech. And when they put it all on the paper, we ended up with a situation where, as this blow up on the right-hand side has it, the 2-1 garage that we have there, the 20-foot setback that is the garage setback was completely honored with the 2-car garage that sits facing the street. At issue here is the one garage that forms the J-swing part of that lot. And what we have in there is the architectural feature on the front of the home is permitted, but it is that little sliver of red there that does not meet the ordinance. The ordinance as it's read allows you to come in with other features and architectural distinctions up to 48 inches, but this is less than that. It's 2 foot, but the part that's the garage that would be in question is 3 feet. Next slide, please. Looking at the side here, you can see the architectural feature that's on the front of the home there. It's augmented with that small roof peak there, as well as the cantilevered roof that's on the front of the home. Looking at it from the side, you can see that the garage door is set back, but it is only permitted within 3 feet of that. So that's the setback that we're questioning here and that was brought to our attention. Next slide, please. And where this came up was after the green tag was issued for the home. Again, the permit was issued. We built the home, went through form board survey, was reviewed and approved all through construction. But then when we went to the closing table, the surveyor went out and checked things, critical points on the home, and it was flagged. So working with them and the title company, it's become the issue of how did this get missed? There's a lot of questions even to this day about this. But the general feature here is that it got flagged on our end when we went and prepared the title survey for closing. Next slide, please. The request tonight, next slide, follows. I'm going to highlight 2 things here. One is going to be the state statute. So in exercising your jurisdiction and your duties under the state statute there, Chapter 211, basically we're asking you to reaffirm a previous finding of a building official with the town of Copper Canyon. We're in agreement. They're in agreement. They've already issued a green tag on the home. So we're simply asking you to ratify or affirm that decision. Next slide. In terms of the hardships, in terms of the compliance and what it would take to bring that home within compliance, we would either have to remove the entire front half of the home, which is not in anyone's best interest. There has been some discussion of basically putting the garage door out of that, but that would completely destroy the architectural feel and look of the home. So with that said, we feel that the 50% hurdle is met because the real way to fix it is to demo the home and push it back. Next slide, please. There's 5 different classifications, but the other one that would certainly apply here is that in the future, this home would either be determined an illegal fit or a non-conforming use. We would prefer that our home buyer never have to deal with that, or any subsequent buyer or resident of the town of Copper Canyon. So with that said, we're asking, and our prayer tonight is that y'all approve this 3-foot waiver of the garage setback on the front of the home. Next slide. Looking at the town of Copper Canyon's code of ordinances here, the special circumstance that led to this, and I think part of the history is, at the same time that this home was going through permitting, there was another home down the street that had the same floor plan. It is 3133 Sherlock. This is 3113 Sherlock. We think that there was some confusion between the permitting tech and the CAD drafter that was working on the plot plan that you saw initially. After it was submitted, staff, because these documents are highly technical these days, perhaps missed it as well as we did, because we're talking about 3 feet, and the front setbacks that we have out there are set so that it articulates the fronts of the home. No one was the wiser as they walked down the streetscape. So that's a unique setup there. Also, the permit, the simple answer is that the mortgage company will not close on this home with this current defect. And then secondly, the granting of this property will not adversely change or impact the master plan or any of that. At the end of the day, this property will still, the property in question, will still remain Town Center South land use. It will still remain PD 19005 and 19006 in terms of its land use of single family. It's still a 62-foot lot. It will not change any of the, we're not requesting a change in any of the other maximum lot coverages. So for instance, they would not be able to say, well, I'm in the front build line now, so I've got more room in the back. Hang on now, y'all have other rules that guide and will limit what they can do in terms of their rear yard accessory structures. You also have maximum pervious coverage. That is not changing here. So it will also not have a downstream effect on any kind of drainage calculations that are part of that building setback. And then lastly, if granted, it would not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious use. At the end of the day, this is not going to do anything like that. As I said earlier, staff has already looked at this. The building official has looked at it in terms of the compliance with other codes, in terms of the other building etiquette, International Fire Code, International Building Code, et cetera, and the home is compliant within all of that. So there's nothing else that would affect this here. Quite frankly, the person that would be most annoyed by this are the people that live on all 3 sides of the home, because the correct way to correct the problem would be to demo the home. They would be affected by that demolition, and it would cause their yards to be torn up on the edges and such, and it would just create more headache than not. With that said, I think this is my last slide. I'm here to answer any questions if you have them.
So I think you answered the how did it happen and why. What steps have you taken to prevent any future occurrences given? And the reason I ask that is normally I wouldn't, but you're a developer in Copper Canyon, still developing other parts of the neighborhoods and so forth. Just want to make sure that we don't have this issue going forward. So what corrective steps have you taken? We
have been working with our survey team to try and understand, one, how did it happen in the first place? And it's kind of boggled us. Like I said, I've only been in front of one of these boards. This is my second time in 27 years. It's not something that ever happens. When it does happen, it's very, very rare. Talking with them, they have now gone back through and made sure that there's a checklist for this community. These are not the only setbacks that we have. On the 100-foot side, there's a different set of setbacks than there are on this side. And I think that could also have been part of the confusion. When you have a survey tech and they're turning out multiple plans, you want to make sure they've got the right information. So part of this was to, one, try to understand what happened. And then the other part was to come up with a checklist for the balance of the homes in here. This is the only one that we went back through to check all the other homes, didn't see any issues. In fact, our existing checks already caught the one at 3133. And there was confusion back and forth with some of the emails as to whether that and this one were the same one. So with that said, it's making sure that the checklist that they had in front of them when they go to do a plot plan for Vickery, the 62 product, is making sure that they understood the build lines for the garage are different than the minimum build line for the home.
Okay, you said that you referred to a permitting tech. Can you describe that? What, are you seeing that as a town role or your role?
That is, so we have a lady that works in our office. Her name is Lori. She is responsible for pulling together everything from once it comes from architecture and once it comes through the different selections, like what kind of tile you're going to get, this, that, and the other. She puts together all of that as a package and it gets submitted to town staff. It's usually a book about that thick for one home. So she pulls that together. Part of what she pulls together is from a CAD tech that's also responsible for drawing the plot plan. And that's the distinction there.
Okay, so that's where an error occurred. Okay. You said that the town affirmed the build. Can you explain what you mean by that?
If you look at the plot plan that's on there, the word approved was stamped on the original plot plan, which is part of the original submission pack, and they approved the original permit package. At the end of the job, when they completed the home, they had completed both the foundation inspection and multiple steps in between. And at the end of the day, issued a green tag for the certificate of occupancy at the end of the build.
Okay. Okay, those are all the questions I have. Anyone else? Questions?
Go ahead.
No, please.
You said that drainage is not an issue. Can you explain that a little bit more? What was done to survey how this could impact the drainage over there?
When homes or pads are built onto a lot, we will typically lay out a very standard dimension. In this case, it's 49 and change feet wide, and then you have your side yard setbacks. Okay, so you take that, you then have a rear yard setback, you have a front yard setback. And then you figure that if you put a home in the middle of that, how much of the home is going to be impervious cover? Vis-a-vis roof, driveway, ever how the city defines impervious cover. Every city has its own nuance, but at the end of the day, they have a way to define impervious cover, and they also have a way of, this is what you're expected to not exceed. And that is the really big part of zoning, right? So you've got to make sure you can convey the water around the home. So there's minimum property standards for how the lot is graded to get the water to the front of the home and into the street. But also there's this idea that when water falls on a flat area, there's a way to calculate the amount of water that's going to come off of that. It's called the rational method. It was developed by a Frenchman many, many years ago. But at the end of the day, we're not asking for any change to that impervious cover. Okay. So that 60%, it stays what it is. The way that works its way through the drainage calculations is when you take that lot and add it to a block of lots and you add it to a subdivision, you then have, this is an acreage. This has so much water per inches per hour in terms of flow. And then you also have, this is how much of that water is going to flow off as opposed to soak in. And so what we're proposing is staying with the calculation method, the 60%, which informs the coefficient of runoff in your drainage calculations. We're leaving that where it is. We don't want to change
And
that.
that isn't impacted by the house being moved 3 foot forward.
Correct. It would not. But what happens inevitably is people start going into their backyard because they've got an additional 3 feet. And they start saying, well, I'm going to put a larger pool area back here, a larger pool deck. Well, the problem is that staff reviews those plot plans when they come in for those additive features. And they have a way to check that against the original home that was permitted. Now you've got an accessory roof or pool add or whatever you're going to add. You still have to stay below that 60 for the entire lot. Does that answer your question?
I think so. What you're telling me is that the fact that it's got now a bigger backyard than it used to, as far as drainage, makes no impact, is what I'm hearing.
Correct.
Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Okay. Also, with the actual site grading itself, we're not changing anything with respect to the side yard drainage, which would have the water coming from the back of the lot to the front of the lot.
Do you have a timeline in regards to when construction was completed, when this was discovered?
The green tag was issued in September of this year. And I got flagged 2 weeks ago when they went through the closing survey. Survey brought it to my attention and they said, what do we do? And I said, there's really only two ways to deal with this, but the ZBOA is the best way. And I think I called Troy the next day. So this has all happened within the last 2 weeks.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So in one of the emails, it mentions that there was, I believe it was the email of 11/21, that from Paul Manel. And it says that each of the two plot plan requests from starts showing two versions of home location. The first at 20 foot, not accepted, and the second at 15 used for last revision. So why wasn't the one, and who did not accept the one at 20 foot?
That specifically related to the address at 3133. That clarification came up after Paul brought this to my attention. That is the one that we were able to flag and say, wait a minute, something came off the rails here. And it's literally, they're on the same street, same side of the street, same floor plan, and that's where it went sideways.
So even though the subject says 3113, in reality, it was in relation to the other house?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So then my other question, and maybe that's more towards Troy, given all the concessions that the town gave Toll Brothers in order to build the community outside of our norms, 1-acre lots, why did we not catch that?
So I'm going to pause there. We'll hold on to that question because he's not testifying right now and I don't
Okay.
have him up on here being recorded. So can we just hold that
Sure.
question for just one
Yeah.
second? Definitely hold it. We'll ask it, but I want to stick with questions for Mike and then we'll move to Troy because I've got a series for you too. Okay. So anything else for Mike?
No, I think that's all.
Sorry, a couple questions, sorry. You mentioned that the architectural feature can go 48 inches into the
Yes, sir.
setback as necessary. What's the measurement of what you call the architectural features on this particular facility?
2 feet.
Is it 48 inches?
It is 2 feet. Yes.
Does that encompass the entire outset wall of that garage?
Yes,
Is that outset wall interiorly open inside the garage?
it is.
So how is that not part of the floor plan of the garage?
Because it's the way we have been permitting out here and the way we have been consistently working with staff on it, that has been the interpretation, is that it is a cupola on the home and it's a front architectural piece. It doesn't substantially add to the square footage of the garage. So the way we've normally calculated a garage is it'll be like 2 foot past that door frame. That's how our architectural plans are drawn.
Was this home a spec home or was this home built to a?
It was built for a homeowner.
It was built for a homeowner.
Yes.
And you mentioned the floor plan's the same as the one down the street. Were there
Yeah.
any modifications to this floor plan the homeowner made?
There were some interior selections that were made. Yes.
Nothing to the floor plan itself?
No.
Okay. And then you mentioned that the only resolution to this setback problem is to tear down the home?
That would be one. The other would be to basically box in that garage and make it not a garage.
I'm looking at the picture here and I see an unusually wide structure of what the garage would be, like 5 feet to the right, 3 feet to the left of the door. As I look at the picture that you provided.
Yes.
What is the interior width of that garage? Single car garage door.
Yeah, I believe it's 16 feet.
So it's the width of a 2-car garage door, but it's a
That-
single car garage.
The 16 feet is what that inside is.
Mhm.
The door itself is 8 feet.
Right. So I'm saying it's the width of a 2-car garage door, but it's a single car garage space.
Correct.
So I'm just curious why the only resolution would be to tear the house down as opposed to adjusting the size of the single car garage because there's nothing above it.
It would have to basically renovate the entire front of
Sure.
the home.
Well, the front of the garage, just not the house.
Correct.
Because the garage is sitting in front of the house is set back.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to clarify that. So with the architectural feature being 2 feet, including the overhang, which I would argue is not so much the issue with the floor plan, looking at this picture, the actual space between the the foundation set forward and the actual lot line is probably 4 feet of actual foundation encroaching into the 20-foot space. Even though rules may say it's 3, but
Right.
if you look at this on the lot, compared to their houses, it's 4 feet closer to the sidewalk than the other places would be.
Correct.
Well, 3 feet of by rule, but 4 feet by design here. Okay, but this garage space was not modified at the request of the homeowner in terms of the plan associated with this garage width. This is the standard width of that floor plan for Toll Brothers?
Correct.
Okay. All right, I think that's all my questions for now. Thank you.
Has anyone driven by that?
I did
You
today.
did? Okay, I did too. And so I don't know if you noticed it, but I made a comment earlier that in driving through it, I literally missed it. Had I not had the address, I wouldn't have known it. So it's not, even though on the picture it looks like it's pretty far out, it looks pretty even, to me anyway, for what it's worth. So I don't know what your thoughts are.
Well, there are other houses on the street that have that architectural appendage
Yeah.
going forward. So it doesn't, they're just very small homes.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's, but it doesn't stick out. You're right. You can drive.
What did you think?
So I did notice it.
Oh, you did?
Yes,
Okay.
I did notice it. I drove down through the entire neighborhood, both on the side with the larger lots and that side. And I did notice it because the front yard is a lot smaller. I guess I understand what you were saying because we've built 3 houses. There's ways of shrinking it, shrinking the garage to where you still can park a vehicle, you can still enter without any problems. And when you're looking at the 2 houses side by that are on either side of that house, you can tell their front yard is shorter. So no, I mean, I did notice it. Now, is it the difference between a 20 and a 40? No, it isn't. It's 3 feet. You'd have to get out, but it is noticeable
Yeah.
because the corner of the house on either side is further set back than from that 1-car garage. So.
Any other questions for Mike?
Just one more, sorry. Has there been any commentary by any of are the adjacent homes occupied right now?
They are occupied and we're not aware of any.
No comment. So obviously we opened up public input timeframe. Where we didn't.
I've got a question for Troy on that.
Okay.
So,
So I saw that we did that, but in terms of receiving any, you haven't had any complaints or anything like that related to the property or the way it's sitting on the lot? Okay.
anything else? Victoria? Paul? Gary?
Good.
No? Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Hey, Troy, could we have you take the stand more or less? You can
Yes.
stay there because you have a microphone. So,
Yes, sir.
Victoria, I'll let you had the first question, which was we've given accommodations to toll, and if you'd like to make a point. now,
Yeah,
just
so
Yeah.
how did we miss it?
I think it was a staff oversight, and right now that individual is no longer with the Down West or Copper Canyon, and we have Safe Build that has qualified folks. As Mike alluded to, it's getting more and more complicated to read these plans and these packets, and so we've consulted. We now have Safe Build reviewing all of our plans of our new homes as well. So that was a good corrective action for us.
Okay, yeah, because that's part of it. I mean, we're growing and there's more and more of these builds. Part of me at the beginning thought, well, is this more of a situation of it's better to ask for forgiveness and permission? And we
that's
don't
my
want to get
concern
into the
as well.
habit of that.
It's exactly my concern as well, because the development's going across the street, because Toll Brothers does massive development in Flower Mound with substantially more concessions than most builders would receive.
Exactly.
And so I do not want this to become a precedent where it's just ask for forgiveness and everything's okay.
I started there, to be honest with you, so definitely a ditto on that. Here's where I took exception, and that is, so definitely Toll Brothers, which is a quality builder, missed it, right? And we missed it twice. We permitted it and we green tagged it. So 3 of us, I mean, in 3 cases, there were errors made, but the town approved their plan when they put it in. And so they're at fault, we're at fault. It looks to me like there's So unlike another situation where, and you guys have heard me on this before, where somebody comes in, does something, and then says, well, recently, where somebody says, oh, now I'd like the exception to be made. And we're like, hey, your problem, the fact that you did it doesn't become my problem. That's true. But in this case, and the reason that I came around personally was, and this is just me, was because I think we've seen multiple people miss it. And that's why I asked the question too. And Troy, I have the same question coming your way. You know, how did we miss it, and what steps have been taken to correct it? And I think you've said that the employee's not here anymore and that you've got a firm looking into it, correct?
That is correct. So all of our new home plan reviews go to a consulting firm who has engineers on staff and do this on a regular basis. And so Safe Build does all of our permitting, our plan review, and to look at all these things as well. So they go through and look at all the setbacks and roof pitches and all the technical things that they're qualified to do.
So you feel safe that insofar as, and I'm going to qualify this as we're only taking this on its own merit, right? We're not relaying it to the rest of the property, but insofar as it's a developer that is still developing within Copper Canyon, have we been able to make sure that we don't have this issue elsewhere so that we don't?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
So Williams is clear and the rest of the Victory
Right.
is clear.
Yeah. They've reviewed several permits related to that development, and they have several more to review as well.
Okay. And for the record, since we did send out the solicitation to all the neighbors in the area, did we receive any response from the neighbors, positive or negative?
We haven't received any responses. No.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for Troy?
Just one, in terms of receiving a occupational permit or a green tag for final inspection, it's not, is it common, is it part of the rules to measure the setbacks at that stage of the inspection?
Typically, I don't believe he does.
I don't think he does.
I think he's looking at all the documentation as it relates to, if the electrical inspections were done, we run through all those documents. So there's a whole stack of documents that the building inspector will review.
And this house is properly placed according to the permit that was issued
Yes, on the lot. Yes.
on the lot. And I recognize that it's the same as the form survey, so it wasn't moved between the permit and the form survey that was done. That matches, correct?
Based on the form survey that was presented tonight, yes.
Troy, is it true? One of the concessions Mike said was they could finish it off and make it not a garage, and it would be within.
It's done.
No, I'm saying, but if they remove the garage door, one of the concessions, one of the alternatives would be to make it another room. Would it then be? Would it still be within the limits of the setback, or would be?
You still have to cut 3 feet off the house.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They would have to change the roof layout, remove the architectural
Okay.
features, and push everything inward.
I misunderstood then. Okay.
Other questions, anybody? No? Okay, so generally I always point out that the questions, there are 4 questions on the front of the application that have to be answered. You've now answered the only question I had that was outstanding. The other 3 I think have been met. So I'm satisfied that you've answered it for the board's consideration. So at this time, I would like to entertain a motion to approve or deny.
Okay, so I'm not sure, did you close the hearing?
Yeah, you got to close the public.
Point made.
Close the hearing.
Public hearing is closed at 7:34 PM. Okay, next item, action and discussion item, discuss and consider take action regarding the request of Toll Southwest LLC, owner of real property located at 3113 Sherlock Lane, described as Vickery Phase 3, Block K, Lot 9, Town of Copper Canyon, Denton County, Texas, for a variance from the Town of Copper Canyon zoning ordinance 19-006, Plan Development District Number 1, Development Standard E, lot and setback standards for minimum 62 feet wide single-family lot. Number 2, minimum front yard. The request is for a variance from the required garage setback The ordinance requires a minimum of a 20-foot setback from the front line property. The property owner is requesting a 17-foot garage setback. Is there a motion?
I move that we grant the variance to Toll Brothers.
Paul Dietz is motioning that we approve it. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Simon, okay. Simon Smock seconds it. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Actually, I'm going to do a roll call. So Victoria?
I hesitate, but yeah, aye.
Okay. Paul?
Aye.
Sorry, don't write this fast. Gary?
Aye.
Okay. Simon? Okay, unanimous vote. Motion carries. And it's approved. Variance is approved. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move we adjourn.
Paul Dietz motions that we adjourn. Second.
Second.
Gary seconds it. All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you. All set.